It's time we brought back cartridge gaming. It's time to bring back cartridge gaming because if you remember during the heyday of cartridge gaming during the 90s with the Super NES, the Sega Genesis, and you can even include before that with the NES and the Master System, and then the Game Boy later, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Gear, Neo Geo Pocket Color, etc. That cartridge gaming was a big thing. Also in the 90s, the switch to CD based consoles happened because it's more cost effective. And I understand that. But my main reason for bringing back cartridge gaming is not simply cost and having physical media in this day where digital downloads are becoming the norm, in which prices are still the same as a physical CD or SD card, be it a DS, 3DS, and things of that nature. This is about upgradability. This is about giving back to the consumer. And this is about also saving these companies that produce consoles money as well. Think back, Super NES. Think back, NES. They had chips on their cartridges to get more power out of the system. So you didn't have to worry about an incremental upgrade such as the PS4 Pro or the Xbox One X. You could do things with those chips to add enhanced sound, maybe do something with the graphics or the shadings or the color or the RAM. And if you skip forward, even the N64 had an expansion pack to add more RAM, which some games required, especially the late generation games. Sega had the SVP chip. They only used it for one game being Virtua Racing. I rented it as a kid from Blockbusters because obviously my folks were not going to pay $100 for a cartridge, for a 9-year-old kid. Whenever that game came out, maybe I was 8, 7, 8, 9. You're probably not going to buy your kid $100 cartridge when you can buy 2 games for that price, right? The thing is, you had chips that pushed the system, that enhanced the games, that extended the life cycle. Even though Sega didn't necessarily use chips to get the job done, they used a Sega CD and a 32X. But it was still expansions. The idea of expansion to increase the longevity of a system. Granted, Sega had some missteps, and the 32X was a disaster, and some might account that being to the looming presence of the Saturn coming after that. But the Sega CD was fairly successful. I'm not sure if they turned a profit or not, but it seemed like it did have a lot more steam, a lot more success than the 32X. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because you just get sick and tired of the business model that's happening right now, where there's no expansion, where there's no cartridges where you can upgrade anything. And they say, well, peripherals or whatever accessories like the 32X and Sega CD aren't a good idea. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about having an expansion slot in the console where you can slide a chip in, because we know even something as small as an iPhone or a Android or what have you can pack a lot of power in it. Chips are smaller nowadays. You can get graphical enhancements from small chips, even back in the day, so you definitely can get it done now. And if you put it in the cartridge, that's even easier, even though that's a multiple time cost possibly on the consumer, and some people say that cartridges cost more to make. But when you look at the DS, the 3DS, the Vita, They use cartridges, not cartridges in the traditional sense, but cartridges in terms of having a SD card that can hold a lot of gigs. We know SD cards, you can get 128 SD card fairly cheap for your phone, and they last a long time. I have a 32 gigabyte SD card in one of my Android phones that I bought 7 years ago, and it still serves me. It still holds up. There's no issue. And maybe you could implement the SD architecture into a new cartridge, maybe a slimmer cartridge, maybe something, maybe even just a thumb drive cartridge type of thing to use to bring that back. And therefore, console developers can get more out of a system, because the console usually is a losing effort in terms of profitability. It was a disaster for the PS3. They didn't make any money on that console, whatever. They lost billions because they had that special cell processing, etc. And then before that, you had Xbox 360 was kicking PS3's butt all up and down the street. I started out with a 360. It was easy to program for the developers, and therefore it had a better game experience. Yeah, halfway through the life cycle, I switched because I had a couple issues with the console in terms of the power and in terms of that red ring of death. And I eventually moved on to PS3, and developers figured out how to develop for it, and they started putting out better looking games, and it just ended up surpassing Xbox 360 in terms of quality of the games and the looks. And they also had free multiplayer as well. We didn't have to pay a monthly subscription. So that was a great added benefit. Even though the Xbox 360 had the numbers, because it came out strong out the gate, the PS3 caught it and won, in my opinion. Not from a sales perspective, but from an actual perspective of games, graphics, and having free multiplayer. But before I get too far off the topic and maybe lose sight of what I'm saying, it's really time to bring back cartridge gaming. It's time to bring back cartridge gaming for a consumer perspective, from a consumer perspective and from a business perspective. I don't think these mid-generation consoles like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X are going to work out. You could say it may work out in the sense, you know what, because there's different components. There's upgraded RAM, there's upgraded graphics cards, upgraded processors. I believe in both, definitely the Xbox One X, that you're pretty much building a new console. Yeah, it's not a huge step above to be a next generation, and it's a mid-generation, and I'm sure they priced it where they can make some money off of it. But when you have expansion capabilities, simple expansion capabilities, you can make money off your console, extend the life, and someone doesn't have to buy a mid-cycle upgrade just to maybe get a better resolution, maybe to get some better shading, when that can be easily achieved when you slide in something to expansion port the size of an iPhone to improve the output of the system. Or it could be something as simple as a chip in a cartridge that has an SD card to hold the information and room to put in chips. I don't even know if you need sound chips today. I don't know if you need something that puts extra polygons. And I'm not even sure that people use polygons per second term nowadays. That's a mid to late 90s. After the bit era, we talked about bits, and then we talked about polygons per second, and now these are teraflops that people are talking about nowadays. So I don't know if it's how much it would add in terms of that, but it could be small enhancements in those cartridges or in these expansions to bridge you over into the next generation. That makes perfect sense to me. It might add a little additional cost to the consumer, but hey, that's also a way for them to make some more money, and it's also a way for them to be more consumer friendly in terms of us actually owning the product. Because I also have beef with the lack of ownership and people trending towards digital downloads when you have to pay the same amount as a CD or as an SD card for those handheld games. It doesn't make sense to me, because the value in owning something is the ability to resell. And also digital rights management. If something's implemented in terms of where to be connected to the internet, that's bad as well. I should be able to play it something 20 years down the line like a Sega Genesis or Super NES or Game Boy without connecting to the internet. Just go ahead, plug it up to whatever TV, or if it's a handheld, just use that and continuously play the game. I mean, it's just a money-making scam right nowadays in the gaming industry with that. I mean, it's very, very, very disturbing to me, and especially, yeah, it's especially very disturbing today because the subscription model may look like a lower cost. Even the subscription models may look like a lower cost, but still probably spending more than you would normally want to spend just for something you can't own. It's a constant blood sucking of your money. What if you just want a console for a few games? They say who buys a console for a few games, but maybe you have multiple consoles, you just want to play a few games. Why do I need a subscription? Just to play those games. Why can't I just have it, own it, and that's that? That's how it used to be back in the day. And I think it's time that the gaming community, anyone that games, anyone that's in the physical media takes a stand against that. If I can't resell it, if I can't play it anytime I want to, that's a problem. Things can be removed off of digital servers. Because guess what? It costs money to host things. It costs money to host things on YouTube. YouTube doesn't make a profit. YouTube loses billions every single year. A video game company is not going to keep games on their server, keep servers running for a long time, because they're losing proposition. If a lot of people aren't downloading a particular game, what have you, they're going to remove it. Netflix removes things from their service. It can always be removed when you don't own it and you're being dictated to what you can and cannot play at a specific time. And that's just ridiculous to me. It just goes against entertainment, in my opinion. Because and then some people say, hey, well, people pay subscription for cable services or what have you as well, and that's always been done. But yeah, you do have alternative in terms of rabbit ears. Yeah, if you want certain channels, yeah, you're gonna need a cable service. But those things are also exclusive a lot of times to TV. Do you really want to go and buy a Blu-ray of a bunch of episodes for a sitcom? Probably not. You're not gonna want to buy it until you've seen it on TV as sort of a trial. If you really enjoy that sitcom or TV show, then yeah, you might buy that collectible Blu-ray later on at that particular time. So yeah, subscription model in TV does serve a purpose as more of a trial thing. And you can say the same about Netflix in terms of a trial thing. So it's not all bad. You say, hey, let me check out this movie, and then I'll go ahead and buy it. So that's why, I'm cool with Netflix, Hulu, cable TV subscription, because it's more of a trial. And if you really like something, you can go ahead and buy the Blu-ray. So that's cool. But when it comes to these video games, it's not a trial. It could be, and this look like it's becoming a permanent thing. So where it's not just a trial, and I can, hey, try this out, see what I like, and then go ahead and buy it. When you're downloading these games, which is not even a subscription at this point, you're paying the $60 every single time. You're not paying just like $9 a month. Try as many games you want, and then go buy the ones you like. No, you have to download a $60 game, and probably in the future, the way things are going, you're probably gonna have to sign for a subscription at some point. There'll be no other way to access the game, so you just have to pay $10, $20 a month every time to get games you don't own. And soon enough, you probably won't own a console. You'll probably all be in a server room, and you just download the game over the internet through your TV with a controller, and you sit there and play whatever console you want. And that's that. A continuous subscription something you don't own. And that just really irks me, because we know subscription things, hosting things cost money, and everything becomes temporary. I want something physical. I want something I own. I want something I control. Point blank, period. It's time to bring back cartridge gaming. Iceberg Jim out. Deuces.